So, welcome to my allotment. It's a lovely sunny day and it's pretty peaceful up here. I'm just going to show you a bit the view from my allotment, and you can see why allotments are fine to come to in the lockdown time. It's social isolation is pretty easy around here for most of the time. So my allotment actually goes up to the greenhouse at the far end there, and I'll take you through some of the things on it. So I'm going to start at this end. Everything's grown in beds here. You can probably be able to see there's a path between each bed. They're known as raised beds in gardening parlance, and the idea is that you don't walk on them because you've got the paths in between, so you can reach over and do what you need to do to the beds without walking on them. Also, theoretically, because they're raised, they have a bigger surface area and therefore get a bit warmer quicker because they absorb more sunlight. So anyway, just before getting to that, so over here is one of the best plants you can have on an allotment. It looks fairly nondescript at the moment, but it's called comfrey, Russian comfrey. Its flowers are really attractive to bees and pollinators. It gets caked in them, and what's also great about it is it sends down a huge taproot, and through that taproot it pulls up lots and lots of nutrients, so it's really good to use as fertilizer. What you do is you cut the leaves, and then they grow back 3 times a year, so you cut the leaves and you put them in a water butt. Here's one I prepared earlier. Water butt like that, that's all comfrey leaves, and then the water and the comfrey rotted down forms a juice which you can use to water your tomatoes in particular. And I say tomatoes in particular because all fruit requires a lot of potash. There's the 3 main nutrients in gardening. There's nitrogen, phosphates and potash, and comfrey is really high in the stuff that fruit needs. So anyway, that's a bit about comfrey. So over here I've got some onions growing. So these are onion sets. And by sets, we don't sow onions as seeds. Well, you can sow them as seeds, but these are called sets, which are like mini onions, which you put in the ground. And because they're already sort of mini onions, they tend to grow a lot easier than seeds. And these will be ready sort of end of July, beginning of August. What onions do, they grow frantically until the longest day in the summer, so around June the 21st, and their leaves will get bigger until then. And then they take that as a sign that the autumn and winter is coming, and so they start to take the energy back from the leaves, and that forms the bulb, and therefore makes the bulb swell. And the bulb is the onion bulb is what we eat. So that's why they'll be ready after the longest day, and sometime sort of end of July, beginning of August. So I'm going to move a little bit up here to what you'll probably all recognise, the rhubarb. So the rhubarb was given to me by another plot holder a couple of years ago. They had a bit spare, and they dug it all out and left them around for people to take. So this is its 2nd year. So if I show you, if I go inside, you'll see some lovely rhubarb stems, which I'm going to make into a crumble this weekend. And then next to that I've got a newly planted loganberry. So loganberries are a cross between a blackberry and a raspberry. So what's not to love about a cross between a blackberry and a raspberry? So that's just its 1st year now. It's got some lovely, look at that new growth there, some lovely growth coming up. And I'm going to put some sort of support for it to climb up, and it's going to romp away and produce some fruit hopefully in the summer. I'm going to pan round with the camera skills that have been bestowed upon me, and you'll see I've got some little things in here. These are actually forget-me-nots. So what I do on my plot is, as well as the vegetables, I like to encourage pollinators and wildlife. And so these are wildflowers, forget-me-nots. You've probably got them growing in your garden, and I let them grow like now, and then after a few weeks they'll finish flowering, and then they'll set seed everywhere. I'll clear away the plants, and then again they'll come up again next year. So they're dead easy, you don't have to do anything, and they keep giving you lovely flowers. I'm going to zoom in on a forget-me-not flower in case you don't know what one looks like. There you go, and they're just starting to flower, these ones. I'm going to wander down here now. I can hear somebody mowing their lawn. It's very noisy for an allotment, but anyway. So here's my garlic. So this was planted at the end of October last year. So what you do with garlic, you get a bulb of garlic and you plant each individual clove. You can see about that apart, so a few inches apart, and that's it. Basically, you leave it, and what happens is they overwinter, and usually the frost helps the clove to split and starts to form a bulb. And then in about July, the leaves will start to drop down and die down and go brown, and that's the time to lift them, and you can lift them and store them through till probably about next March, April. Same with onions. If you keep them cool and dry, they'll store all the way through the winter. So, and they're really nice, really garlicky when you dig them up. Then over here, because of the time of year, there's a lot of seed sowing at the moment. So this may look fairly dull, but it's beautiful. It's beautiful. It's a seed bed. It's a seed bed. So it's somewhere where I've got what I've done is I've got the soil to a nice fine tilth. That's what it is. It's a tilth. And look how dark and crumbly. Look at this. If I do this, look, watch this. Watch it. Oh, just look at that. It's just crumbly loveliness. So that's where I've sown some seeds. So that's actually some radish and some spring onions in there, and they'll be coming up soon. I sowed them at the weekend, so they'll be up in 10 days or so. The little green seedlings you can see are pesky little weeds trying to get in the way, but don't worry, they'll be dealt with accordingly. And then this is magnificent, isn't it? This is a bit strange. So this is I'm growing lots of chard here, which is just the easiest and one of the best vegetables you can grow. So chard, if you don't know, it's very similar to spinach. It doesn't normally grow into a tree. I don't really know what's happened there, but so this was sown last April. And has been growing all through the winter. We've been harvesting it through the winter. We can see we've got some of the lovely, you can get rainbow chard seeds where they have different coloured stems. So there's some yellow in amongst here. You can probably see some pink, there's some white. So all sorts of different colours. So they look lovely, and the leaves, they're just a brilliant vegetable to have. Really, really nice, sautéed with a bit of olive oil, bit of nutmeg, bit of garlic. Lovely. And I'm still not sure why that one's formed a tree, but it's really good because it's got lots of leaves on. So so that's that side. I'm going to wander down here. I'm going to trying to keep the sun at a good angle. I can barely see what I'm showing you, so hopefully it's all looking okay. So here I've got some shallots. So let's go a bit closer. So these are shallots. Now I meant to buy some sets, which are small shallots, to be able to plant, but I cocked it up and ordered some seed, and I've never grown shallot seeds before. But here they are so far. And again, they're in a sort of bed. I planted them out. I grew them in the greenhouse, sowed them in the greenhouse, and then planted them out at the weekend actually. So they're just starting to settle in. Over here you've got a few spare ones, because what you need to do when you move something from a greenhouse to outside, so it's gone from being in a lovely warm place to somewhere that might not be so warm, so you harden off your seedlings. So you put them outside for a day, put them in at night, outside a day, in at night. You do that for about 3 days until you can leave them outside in the containers they were sown in, and then once you've done that, after another couple of days you're then okay to plant them in the soil, and they won't have too much of a shock, because they don't like shocks, seeds. Well, neither do any of us really. So yes, so that's the shallots, and then this is just more beauty. So this is one of the things that just makes me and most gardeners really happy. So this is another seed bed, but look at this, look at those seedlings coming up there. I mean, if that doesn't warm the cockles of your heart and make your soul sing, I'm not too sure what will. But so these ones here, these are broad beans, which are another of the best things you can possibly grow on allotment, because they're so sweet and juicy. We get them, harvest them when they're quite small little bright green beans. Get some red onion, saute that with a bit of garlic, a bit of olive oil, then get your broad beans, your baby broad beans, toss them in, bit of fresh pasta, some parmesan and olive oil on the top. Oh my god, job is a good one. So those are, but I'm going to show you these. So this is what I do is I do some successional sowing, because you don't want a million broad beans at the same time. So so this is the third lot of broad beans I've sown. So I'll show you some others earlier, and the idea is that you keep sowing things in succession, so you get a constant supply rather than a glut. So this is more of a seed bed. Various different things coming up here. I can show you just three of these ones. You can see right down there. If you can see that, I don't know if you can. Those are spring onions along there. These ones, I'm not expert in identifying seedlings. They are carrots coming up there. These ones, you can tell a little bit by the red stem. Those are going to be beetroot. And these are radishes. I can actually identify most vegetable seeds from their initial two leaves when they germinate, which is a bit sad. So over here now, so this is potatoes. Now I've grown them a bit unusually this year. I've got I normally grow them in rows, but I thought I'll try something different this year. So they're in holes. Now you can't see anything at the moment, but I'm going to show you. These are the main crops. So there's different types of potatoes. There is there's a first early, second early, and a main crop. It's like different what they call courses when you go out for a restaurant. But so that's the main crop. So you can't see those at the moment. That's a variety called Picasso, which is lovely looking potato with red spots on, and delicious. So I'm going to come over to here though. So these are my first earlies. So these ones were planted a little bit earlier. And if I don't fall over, I can show you these. So you'll see they're starting to appear. There's some there. There's some there. So this is just, so they've been planted in these holes. And the reason we've planted them in holes is that, and the soil around them is, potatoes actually, as the plant grows up the stem, they send out new growths, and the potatoes grow up the stem in effect. Now if you don't earth them up, so cover them with soil, then they go green and then they're poisonous. So what you do is you plant them, and then as they grow up, I mean I can do, basically what we'll start to do is cover that leaf a bit like that, leave a little bit showing so it doesn't completely give up the show, but then as it grows it'll keep pushing through, and you keep on putting the soil up against the stem until you have a mound with the potato leaves on the top. And then when you come to harvest them, you dig up the whole lot, and there they are, the little jewels, the nuggets of potatoy joy that will be under the soil. And those will be ready about August, September, something like that. Potatoes are ready. The first earlies are ready when the flowers first appear on the plants, and the main crops are ready when the flowers are finished and the tops start to die down. And the main crops will tend to get much bigger. The main crop of potatoes. The first early is like basically new potatoes. So you get those when they're nice and small. And then I'm just going to move over to here. So I do, as I say, I try and attract lots of wildlife here. So this is a pond that I dug 2 years ago, and you can see it's got some lovely water wisteria there, and I just love here. So I come and sit here looking at the pond for a long time. If I want to relax, it's just magical. So at the moment there's lots of tadpoles. So this was the first spring where I've had tadpoles in. So the frogs appeared, and there was about 7 blobs of frog spawn, which was brilliant. You can see all the way around I've got different wildflowers, and herbs. I've got oregano there, I've got feverfew, forget-me-nots, foxgloves, and some grasses. And the intention from this is that when the tadpoles emerge as little froglets from the pond, they can hide in the cover and therefore not get predated upon. And then over here as well, I've got lots of logs from a tree I cut down. This one here, that's interesting, got a bit of a stain fungus on it, that black stain fungus. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. So yes, so they've got lots of little habitats for, it looks a bit messy, but it's fantastic habitat for wildlife. And I wouldn't try and zoom in. Last year I had 6 species of dragonfly and damselfly emerged from the pond. So they'd only had 1 year in there, and they'd laid eggs in within 2 months of me digging it, and then had they emerged out the pond, the larvae, and we created life from the pond. So this is one of my favourite things. It's one of my triumphs. I love it. There's spiders, there's water boatmen, there's diving beetles, there's water spiders too. Dragonfly larvae, all sorts going on there. It's just brilliant. So that's that. Then over here, this is my raspberry area. So I've got lots of raspberries too. And see, with everything, I mean everything's quite early at the moment, so it's an early start of the year, early time of the year. These are an autumn variety, so ready in about July. Absolutely delicious, huge juicy raspberries, full of joy, flavour and deliciousness. They're really lovely, dead easy to look after. You just stick them in the ground and then every year they come up. All you have to do is every March you chop them down, so you can see this is this year's growth. So the autumn raspberries, these ones, they fruit on the current year's growth, as opposed to summer varieties which are ready a bit earlier, which fruit on the previous year's growth. So you just need to know which type you've got to be able to manage them properly. But so this is my total what I love on the allotment. I've got forget-me-nots, great for pollinators. I've got some dandelions in there, brilliant for pollinators and insects. That's some feverfew, so herb, which will have little daisy flowers, and the pollinators will love that too. I've even got a foxglove in there. And then over here I've got some raspberries, and I've got some strawberries in there, so that's a little strawberry flower, if you can see that coming along there. Then over here I've got verbascum, which is a wildflower, sends up a big yellow spike of flowers, fantastic for mullein moths and mullein moth caterpillars, so which is great, and also pollinators. And then over here the grassy looking thing is salsify, which is a wild herb and also a vegetable that you can eat. It sends down, it's got sort of long white roots which taste a cross between parsnips and potatoes. Really nice, and also it flowers beautifully. The flowers are just, if I can show you, they're just about to come. They open up and they have this beautiful open pink flower, absolutely lovely, which opens during the day and then closes at night, and it's lovely. So lots of reasons in there to grow salsify. Then pulling over here, so these are now a couple of beds that are waiting. So oh, there's an orange tip butterfly. Oh, look. Orange tip butterfly visiting, very nice. So yes, this is a bed that's waiting to be planted. So at the moment I've just left lots of things in here that will help the insects, and then I'll clear them away when they finish flowering and I'm ready to plant them out. There's no rush. There is another, I mean, look at that architecturally, isn't that just, that is beautiful. That's another verbascum, and it makes me very happy. I'm over here, so this is another bed that's ready for planting, and my silhouette. This here growing randomly, it's seeded itself, is wild rocket. So really very spicy, very peppery, very delicious. Oh, wait a minute, look over here. Oh, I need to look who's here. Can you see him? Oh, wait a minute, where's he gone? Is he coming out? There, ladybird. Really good. So ladybirds will lay their eggs around my broad beans, which I showed you earlier, and I'll show you a bit more. And because broad beans get attacked by black fly, so the ladybirds lay their eggs, well, there it goes, lay their eggs on there, and then the babies come out and the larvae feed on black fly. So they basically grab them and try and suck the bejesus out of the black fly. That's the end of the black fly. But in the meantime, ants on the broad beans, ants love the juicy sugary secretions that are left by the black fly. So the ants have a battle with the ladybird larvae because the ants want to protect the black fly and the ladybird want to suck their insides out. So you can watch that for hours, and I often do. Let me just take you around to show you actually something along those lines. Here's some more stuff. This is my bank of joy. This is nettles. Oh, look at that. Oh, I was going to show you a spider, but it's run away. Nettles and feverfew and orchids and all sorts of habitat there. So I'm going to come round here to another thing which just makes me very happy, because look at that wet dark soil, and those are lettuce seedlings. The lettuces that I sowed about 5 weeks ago, and I've planted them out now in amongst another lot of broad beans. That's the second lot of broad beans, so I showed you the third lot a bit ago, so that's ready before the third lot. And then these are the first lot of broad beans. So look, they've now got their flowers, so the bees will be busy pollinating all of these, and then we will get lovely fresh broad beans, and there's nothing better. And then what I just noticed over here, very interestingly, look at those, there's some eggs. Now I need to check what they are. They could be butterfly eggs, and they could be ladybird larvae eggs. You know, I was mentioning those before. So they could be there, the army gathering, ready to come and suck the insides out of any pesky blackfly that try and eat my produce. So that's exciting. I'll keep an eye and see what they are. Along here we've got some peas, not most successful at the moment. I have probably approximately one plant has germinated, or maybe not many. So that one's not going so well, but I've got more in store. One of the things about allotments and gardening is that things go wrong, things go right, but it doesn't matter, and there's always next year, and you can always put something else in. So that one's some borage, which is a wildflower. You can use borage in salads and gin and tonics. Actually, the flowers you can drop in there, and they're very colourful, and apparently they're, I don't know if you eat them or not, but they look very nice anyway. So moving round now to this is the sort of flowery pollinator bed in particular. So this is this plant here. I will update you in the future and show you what's what. But we've got there's a lovely shield bug, if you can see that in the middle there. I'm not sure if you can see that, but it's a shield bug, and that's on feverfew. This plant here is called the poached egg plant, Limnanthes douglasii, which is amazing for bees. They just fall over themselves to go on it. It's a white flower with a yellow middle bit, so that's why it's called the poached egg plant, and it is just brilliant, and it seeds itself without you doing anything. So that will be in flower in a few weeks. That's another herb, Angelica, which just have beautiful umbellifer flowers at the top, which insects love again. You can see the theme about insects, can't you? I've got also, they've got little things there. There's what's it called again? Marigold. So that's a French marigold, and we've got some different wildflowers and things going on around here. So that's a whistle-stop tour through the allotment, and we can talk about that more in a minute. Now the final bit to show you is, look at it. It's just, well, it's better than heaven, really, isn't it? It's my greenhouse. So this is where the start of a lot of the plants happens. So I'm hoping a lot of this hasn't been out of focus, but we shall see. So these are some vegetable seedlings and flower seedlings that I've been sowing over the past few weeks. You can see here we've got sunflowers, lettuces, that's broccoli and cabbage over there. That little one in there is celery. This is, I can't even say it, it's something like Zanisnyanisnyanisnyash. It's a South African flower. Oh, wait a minute, have I got a label? Have I been organised? Oh, I have. It is Zaluzyanskia, told you. And it has the most beautifully fragrant flowers at night, caked in them. So they're doing quite well. They were sown in beginning of March. They're looking really quite nice. I didn't think they would germinate, so they're doing really, really well. And then there's lots of other stuff here: Cosmos, Hesperus, Zinnia. Some of these I bought them and I can't remember what they look like, but I liked them at the time. That's Bryza, which is a type of grass, which is very, very lovely. And then I've got some peas. So I showed you outside there weren't many peas germinating, so I'd already thought, not so sure about them. So I've got some more in here, which will do better. Over here, those are all sorts of pumpkins and squashes, which I sowed at the weekend. And then if I come around here, look at that. So those are my climbing French beans. So I will be getting juicy beans off those in June. That's my runner beans, and even that, just look at it. Look at them emerging. Oh my God, look at that. Look at them just emerging. Magical. So and what happens in the summer, these benches and everything will be cleared away, and I'll have tomatoes growing down below. And that's really it. I was going to show you a few seeds, but I think I probably won't actually, because I can't use them one hand. But all seeds are different sizes, and I can talk about explain a bit more about how you know how deep to sow them. But I'll just move out for one final little wander along. So there it is. The sun's out. Look. Just look at it, isn't it just beautiful? I'm just going to wander along now so you can see all of the stuff where we're from. There's the pond in the distance. The bloke's still mowing. If he wasn't mowing, you can probably hear how quiet it is. There's a tree behind there that red kites roost in every evening and call from. There's the raspberries, there's the new potatoes, there's the main crop potatoes there, the lovely seed bed, back over to the chard, the garlic, more seed bed. There's another butterfly, I think that was a peacock, but I was not quick enough to film it. And there's back to the onions and the rhubarb. So here endeth the tour, I think. Happy days.